And boom, we are rolling, folks. Another edition, Beyond Average. We got Tuesday, January 16th, 2023. I'm Jordan Flu Gaming. Can you hear this voice right now? This is terrible, but I'm here for you. We promised the episode. I hate when my voice sounds like this. I really do. Excuse me. Hold on. I'm battling here, okay? But we got a good episode. Good episode here planned for you. Chris Castellani is joining us in just a few minutes. We talked everything KMS, talked about his come up in Barstool, how he got there, what his plans are going forward with his content, if the company views him differently after the little rift that he had with, personal issues, everything. We got into everything. I thought it was a pretty good conversation. I didn't know much about him going into it, so shout out him for coming on. I appreciate it. But again, I apologize if I sound like a goddamn bullfrog here off the top. It's a battle right now. I'm not sick. I really am not. But somehow I'm just losing my voice, and it's just, I don't know. I sound like a fucking hack when it starts to go. I sound like a 50-year-old smoker. Who are the smokers from The Simpsons? Montante would know. Who are they? The ladies that smoke all the time? You know what I'm talking about, the characters. I sound like one of them. Not good. But yeah, we got a couple things here I want to talk about before we jump to that Castellani interview. Blind Mike. One Michael Geary. I like Blind Mike. I like his content. I like Blind Mike on the show. What I do not like about Mike is him selling this narrative that I am deserving when other people are not. That is not what I am saying, Mike. And we had this conversation on the air amicably. I get it, dude. You don't like me. That is fine. You do not follow me on any social media account. I subscribe to your Patreon. I follow you on everything. I retweet your stuff. That's fine. Again, I don't care if Mike doesn't like me. But that is very fucking annoying. We just did this a week ago, 2 weeks, whatever it was. I was in there. I sat next to him. Everybody's like, yeah, you laid a dud. You were boring. I was trying to be calm. I was trying to be a normal fucking person. I thought that's what we were trying to do. We were trying to improve on ourselves. Okay, you want me to tell you how I really feel? I think he's a fucking hack. Yeah. I just had a problem with him. Again, he kind of pushes the narrative that he thinks that I have a problem with him promoting his Patreon with KMS. And that I've never said that. I've said the exact opposite. I said, if that's the reason why Mike goes in there and he can make a living off that, good for him. I just am not in that position, nor do I want to be. I don't think that makes me a bad person. Or even have bad intentions. I'm trying to get a full-time job in this field, consistent money, salary, income, job security, stability, all of it. I don't want to have to rely upon somebody else's fan base. And I'm not trying to say I'm some star content creator. No, that's why I was trying to work as a producer, you moron. It's just I feel like you're not listening. And I've bit my tongue for a while. I mean, you guys are going to think this is a bit. He's been doing this for how long? He's said these type of things about me since the beginning of the producers are just why is this kid so entitled? Why is he so... It sounds like the fucking Reddit comments. If anything, the guy who gave up his paycheck on the show, he should be rooting for other people to get paid that are contributing. No matter who deserving or not, you should just be rooting for everybody who actually contributes to the show to get paid. And if you don't, you're a fucking asshole. Moving on. The Bucs. I'm going to go right to the Bucs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, okay? You fucking assholes tried to tell me it was a wrong move. Yeah, that's all you said. You said, don't do it. They're going to be terrible. Don't go with Tom, Mick. Don't go with Tom Brady. Don't do it. You're going to regret that decision. 3 years after he leaves, it's going to be terrible. Well, we're in year one, and we're currently a game away from the NFC Championship. Baker Mayfield. Say it with me. Say his name. Baker Mayfield. Holy Toledo. That was a hell of a win, man. Hell of a win. And it shoved it right down Sirianni's ass. The Eagles. I can't stand that guy, Nick Sirianni. Oh, what a cocksucker he is. But yeah, we got the Lions this week. I'm excited about that. That's going to be It's going to be a hell of a football game. I'll tell you that right now. That's going to be a hell of a football game. Castellani, he's a big Lions guy. He was saying that the stadium was going fucking crazy. I think he said it was the loudest sporting event he's ever been to. He was at the, Lions-Rams game last week? Yeah, it should be good. Jared Goff, Minifan too, right? I wonder if Jared Goff actually is a Minifan. Justin now, he's got to be able to have the connection, right? Big Cat? Big Cat loves Jared Goff. He's been on that show a ton of times. Come on, Justin, put that together. Probably is. If that could be a surprise, but fuck. Should I take that out? If Jared Goff shows up at a KMS show, don't fucking blame me. And I'm not, you know what I mean? Don't say I spoiled it because I have no idea. Anyways, yeah. What else? What else we got? Let me think. What else do we have here before we kick it to Castellani? I suppose we should talk about the stream the other night. The stream heard around the world. That was actually pretty crazy because I thought, maximum there would be 45, 50 people in there. Just because it's Twitter and the notification pops up. I figured there'd be some people that would click in. Some of the Minifans that'll give me shit. That's what I thought that was going. And then Kirk retweeted it saying like, we've reached peak madness. And all of a sudden I looked down and there was like 400 or 500 people in there. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't know what was going on. That was really nice of him. He doesn't have to do that kind of stuff. And that's obviously, I understand here again, Blind Mike, I understand the promotion element of it. I get that. And I'm appreciative of that. That just wasn't my intention. It wasn't my intention going into the producer search, and it hasn't been since. Now, if I don't have a job there, I'm going to throw some content out there. And if Kirk's nice enough to retweet it, thank you. And I get being on his show helps that content progress and the audience grow. Do you want me to speak to you like you speak to me? I'm like a child. But hey, I'm the entitled one, right? Anyways, back to the eulogy. I decided, all right, let's just scratch this whole eulogy bit. Because originally it was a bit. People were wondering that too. They're like, was it a bit? Was he serious? It was a eulogy for a man that didn't die. What the hell are you talking about? Was it a bit? Did you see what my hair looked like? You guys, man, wake up a little bit. Jesus Christ. Like, I feel like there's people that can't have both ways. You're not allowed to get mad, and then you're also not allowed to be like funny or entertaining and laugh. Like, you have to be one or the other. Like, fuck you, dude. Fuck you. I will tell you if I'm happy or I will tell you if I am mad. If I am in a good mood or a bad mood, you will be able to tell. And if you don't want to listen to it, I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I don't give a fuck. Holy shit. I want you to listen to it. I'm not going to lie. I would like you to listen to it, but it's not going to end my life, man. It's really not. I hope people get that by now. And you can say that's arrogance. You could say that's unearned confidence. You can say whatever you want. It's just the truth. It's the fucking truth, dude. I don't know what else you want. Anyways, I probably sound like a whiny little bitch right now. I get that, but it's tough because I do feel like anytime you try to have any sort of like humor or entertainment, it's now everything's a bit. And then if you go back at somebody, you're sensitive. Is there a happy medium? I'm sure there is. I'm not there. I understand that. But holy hell, work with me a little bit, man. It's like, Blind Mike's the perfect example. It's like, dude, everything you think is like bad intentions. It's like, do you ever just think, hey, maybe he's just like trying to contribute to the show? Fucking around a little bit? Having some fun, just like you do every single day at other people's expense? The minute someone does it that's lower than you, it's like, oh, that hurt. What the hell? He's a pussy. Okay. But I'm the sensitive one. Anyways, let's get to Castellani. Let's get to that interview. And I cut it up a little bit because we did go a little long, and I don't like having an hour episode of these. So I like to keep them a little short. So this one's a little snipped up. I think it's probably I don't know, like 30 minutes or so. It's not bad. It's a good conversation. Check it out. And thank you for listening. We started off with me kind of talking about him getting into Barstool and kind of how he got to the company. So that's what we're going to jump to right now, right?
It was pretty wild. Yeah, it's one of those classic like Barstool stories of Dave being like, I'm going to give this guy a shot. What the hell? And and obviously a lot's changed in my life, both personally and professionally since then. But those, like I've said this a million times, like I could live to be 1,000. I don't think I'll have a crazier 24 hours in terms of like where I was at that point versus immediately being thrust into another position. It was crazy. It was crazy because I put in I'm not gonna say I liked working at the gas station, but they were good to me. So I put in my 2 weeks notice after Barstool hired me.
Right.
And every so often, if people would start coming into the gas station being like, dude, why are you here?
Yeah.
You just got hired by Barstool.
Right. That's hysterical.
I'm like, okay, I will. I'm out in a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm a decent human. I got to finish my shifts here, right?
Right. So it was that was a crazy time and a wild summer. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine that's a wild 24 hours. Yeah. Let me ask you this. How long were you willing to work at that gas station and pump out content before you think that, something else would go? Because I would imagine there was a point in time where you probably thought about going back to school or something like that. Like, did you ever think about finishing?
Never really thought of, okay, for a brief moment I did, because what happened was, and ultimately just for my content, what ended up actually being a good reset, and I think it was like this for a lot of people, was the pandemic.
Yeah.
So you get, my whole thing was, content, videos after sporting events. There's no sporting events going on for 6 months. So, and even like, I even wasn't working at the gas station for like, a period of time because I lived at home and I didn't want to get my parents sick. And, so there was definitely during that like 6 month stretch, probably starting in, May of 2020, all the way through to the end of the year, where I was very much in limbo.
Yeah.
And about like, and I was considering things, applying for like jobs at UPS or something that would be full time where I could be independent, more on my own, and make money on my own with benefits and stuff like that. And then I just it's one of those things that happens to me a lot in life where I just push things off that extra day or extra week. I'll give this another shot. And basically what I kind of committed to in 2021 was I'm like, okay, I'm going to go one more baseball season here. I feel good about where the content's at. This is my 5th year doing this. Positive reception. It seems like things are growing at this point. Probably around 20,000 people on Twitter following me. So I'm like, I'm going to give this one more shot. And it was one of those things like, I'm not a huge believer in like manifesting stuff, but before Barstool came calling, I do remember thinking that my content right now is in a better place than it's ever been. I feel better than I have in a long time. So when they came calling, when it did, it's like this bizarrely kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
No, there were definitely a lot of like almost out of it moments.
What was the lowest moment? Do you have a particular time that you can point to where it's like, this is just not going to work? I'm at that right now, by the way. So if that helps you, I'm 28 too. So I'm right in the mix of that right now. So I'm looking for a little advice.
I get it. Well, like, I mean, you're more ahead of the game than I was at this age. I mean, you got a functioning microphone and you're doing a podcast, which is more than I probably could have done at this point. Man, I'm trying to think if there was a singular moment. I guess from a content standpoint, and I've talked about this many times with the guys at Barstool, very often in terms of your content, you are kind of at the mercy of the teams you root for. And I remember during the pandemic, baseball was 60-game joke of a season. And the one thing we kind of had to fall back on is like, okay, well, the football season's coming up. I love Michigan football, and they were awful. Like in the middle of the COVID, they Harbaugh almost got fired.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. The content's not really growing right now. We're a ways away from next baseball season. I'm not doing great mentally. I mean, I'm just having like nightly these just manic, like depressive episodes. Whether they're on camera or not, it doesn't matter. It's like I just don't feel good about the stuff that I'm putting out right now. I think that I kind of allowed myself to reset a little bit, and ultimately it led to some really good things happening both personally and in my content. So I don't know if there was one in particular, but there were definitely a lot of kind of punches to the gut throughout the entire thing. That all it all kind of snowballed into this wonderful moment with Barstool. But yeah, I mean it's like I said, it's a unique Barstool story because it was an overnight thing, but I'd been working at it for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a very proud moment for me.
3rd year there? This is gonna be
yeah.
So
I mean,
what's your
like
overall, I guess with your
ask me this.
content, like do you have a something that you haven't thought of yet, or is I guess like what's your next move with your content?
Well, I think over the last few weeks, I've been getting down to Detroit a lot more. I'm trying to do more in-person, man on the street stuff, talking to fans. I mean, this is I talked to you before we recorded. This is the best week of sports I've ever experienced, with Michigan winning the national championship. The Lions win a playoff game for the first time in 32 years. Like, there's some really cool stuff going on. I love the fans in Detroit. They're so passionate. In terms of overall content, my big thing, I want to collaborate more. And ultimately I still, and I go back and forth with people about this. I still want to be here because I've had some personal nonsense that I've put myself through and put some other people through that I'm out of now. And it's like, I want to see what I can be here when I'm like fully present. The one downside I've had with, and I think a lot of content creators can relate to this. The one downside I've had throughout a heavy majority of my life as a content creator is that isolation until, just this week, I got a cameraman for the first time. Until then, it's been filming by yourself, editing by yourself. And sometimes you're your own worst critic. And ultimately, I think the best projects, whether at Barstool or just beyond, are collaborative projects, or when you can bounce ideas off of another person. So I want to become a bit more indoctrinated into the world. I'm comfortable blogging. I've been doing plenty of that. Especially over the last 7-8 months. I think I've really kicked it into high gear. But really, ultimately, yeah. I mean, I want to keep being here. I want our baseball content to grow here. It's been a very strange kind of time, and I truly don't know what's going to happen, man. I kind of have an idea, but ultimately, no matter what, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and regardless of where things end up, I'm gonna work as hard as I can until that final day of the contract is up. I feel like I owe that to the company. I feel like I owe that to myself. I was given something great here. And there were definitely a lot of twists and turns, but I think just in terms of the future, I want to become more part of the world again. I want to be collaborative and be in the offices a little bit more consistently, and hopefully that happens.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right way to approach it. You kind of mentioned that you had some trouble with the company. I'm not asking you to go into it too deep, but do you think that I'm asking this as kind of like a working in this type of field versus being an accountant? Do you think they view you differently now after having a little bit of a riff, and do you think that affects your content going forward?
Yeah. That's not even a bitterness thing.
Right.
I think that that's just something that would exist
the nature of the
for
business,
everybody.
right?
Any person who went through, whether it's mental health struggles, substance abuse, I have no problem with that being a part of my story at all. I have a problem with it defining my story, especially here. That's what kind of concerns me about it. So the idea of being viewed differently, yeah. I mean, when you're gonna be, there's things in the past you can't undo, but what I've always really appreciated about Barstool, and I think somebody like Kirk is a good example of this, is that we've, one of the best worst things about this company is that you're kind of in front and center all the time, and you're going to have fuck ups, and you're gonna have mistakes, and some of those mistakes will become very public and talked about, and you're probably going to stew in it, and you're going to beat yourself up over it. But I've always loved the fact that there's been a pathway to redemption very consistently for people. And I hope that I can become part of that. But no, I'm aware that I've put myself kind of in the crosshairs with it. I have no problem being open about it. If you're going to get the praise, you're going to get the criticism. That's fine. There are days, especially in the last several months, where it's Jesus, can we move on from this, please? Right. And some, it's not great to wake up at 8:30 in the morning and somebody's in your DMs hoping you go back to rehab and shit. It's okay, but
gets old,
with
right?
The good comes the bad. I understand it. And like I said, it's more, I'm in that limbo in between now where it's I just want to make sure it doesn't define this kind of chapter of my life.
I think it's fair. I think it's a good way to approach it too, especially with just, it's not really in your hands technically. You just kind of put out your shit, and if people like it, they like it, and the company likes it, they like it, right? So I get that completely.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That with Barstool, you're given so much creative freedom, which is an absolute blessing until it isn't. Because if you're putting when I got started, I was putting out the Tiger videos and everything. I was everything's positive. They're liking it, and then eventually okay, what's show us another
right.
Show us something else. Show us another side. So there is, with creative freedom comes that kind of inability to bounce ideas off of other people, which kind of gets me into trouble. Sometimes I'm very much in my own head, but yeah, no, you're right.
Do you feel that puts pressure on you?
Self-imposed. I don't feel it. I don't believe necessarily that the company as a whole is against me or anything like that. But I've always been a perfectionist when it comes to that stuff. I try to hold myself probably too high of a standard. Because my best moments like in life and just as a person, I feel good when I make good content, when I put good things out there. Like we got a pretty good like Lions vlog that should be coming tomorrow. Like I felt good after yesterday's game, not just because we won, because I'm like, all right, I worked hard. I feel like we put something together that people are really going to like. And I think, and it's tough when you get clean and, you're kind of past that chapter in your life and in recovery. You question things so much more than you ever did because you actually have a filter now. You can't just be like, I'm just going to fucking throw shit at the wall. Something will stick. It's like, you got to actually think about things now, kind of reassess. And it has made content in that first year more difficult. I think it's better now than it's been in a long time. But no, I mean, I've always been somebody who holds myself to a high standard.
That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. Let me throw it to KMS now. Let me talk to you about the current state of the show, the Justin and Coleman era, the Gus firing. Where are you at with it? How do you feel about it? And how do how are these guys going to do going forward?
Well, my initial reaction to the search, and I remember I had a conversation with Jeff D'Lo about this, was that I was pretty certain he was going to hire two guys and to replace Dave. I like Dave quite a bit. And then the times I met him, we always got along. I was really happy for Coleman because that Barstool day where we laid off all those people was really tough for a lot of people, especially people that were in the offices. And it was the worst kind because nobody got laid off because of lack of talent. It was totally cost. So anytime I see somebody, especially somebody that comes from the Barstool universe,
did you know another
Coleman? Opportunity?
Sorry, did you know him well?
We met a few times in the New York office. We never had a personal close conversations, but I knew the name, I knew the face. I'd seen him doing stuff, and I'd seen him in the background of content videos and stuff in the past. And I knew he was part of Barstool, so I was happy to see him landing on his feet. With him bringing in Gus, I knew when he brought him in, between the two of them, the one that was going to get the brunt of Kirk's wrath was going to be Gus. I think it was kind of set up for it to be that way. And I think, as with any person who is a part of Barstool, I'm sorry, you can't work here and not have a super thick skin. The thinnest skinned person at Barstool is probably tougher than most people in terms of just what they can take on the internet. Over the last week, it made for good content. I did feel bad for Gus, especially when he was pitching, the whole RyderCon pitch of what he was doing. I putting myself in those shoes as somebody who's feeling stressed, where you think you have an idea for something and you're kind of manic about it. So it's I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then you realize, shit, this probably I didn't think this through all the way, or I didn't have the resources. I didn't know it would end with him leaving. Now listening to the show today, I felt better about it. It seems like he's going to be okay. It seems like he took it really well. And ultimately, I think from a overall standpoint of how they bounce off of each other, Justin knows the show so well at this point that I think the three of them will be great together. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing because I've had similar experiences like that where you feel kind of behind the eight ball. It's good to know that there's still supportive there and everything. But yeah, it was definitely a whirlwind. And then with the last week or so, all of a sudden I randomly got involved in it with the boner salad thing. So it was it was definitely interesting.
How would you have handled that if you were Gus? Because you're on someone else's show. This is me and Montante, who I know you've been on his show before. I was talking to him about this. It's someone else's show. Obviously, it's it's a job technically, and I get that. It's a career. It's a real thing for sure. But I still view it as it's Kirk's show. And if he doesn't want you there, I don't think you should be there. And I guess it's easier said than done because it's real life. You have bills to pay, you have this, that, and the other. So I get there's more to it, but would you, if somebody told you that they didn't want to be on your show, would you keep showing up? Until they forced you, I guess,
I would until I found another gig, which I would immediately start doing.
Fair.
Because I can't, ultimately, I think, I don't know, and I'm sure there's exceptions. In general, in the working world, I don't think that people can really thrive in environments where they don't feel like they're a part of that world or a necessary part of that particular brand. So yeah, I mean, it obviously makes things really tough for you. So no, in the long run, I'm with you. I do think it's probably best for him. And it seemed like it was handled diplomatically as well. So yeah. It creates a tough situation though, man. Because I mean, going into work and feeling that way, it's not. yeah, it's one of those things where it starts with the best of and things kind of snowball and it's like, fuck, I'm really fucking up a lot of things here.
Yeah.
You kind of just have to reset. So yeah, but obviously I wish him the best.
I think we've all had at some point, where your boss asks you like, what have you done or something like that. And you just have a blank stare. You're like, I was staring at the computer screen all day. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not sure. So I think everybody's been there at least at some point. It gets amplified when it's on Kirk's show and for the content. So I went at Gus harder than anybody. He hates me probably more than anybody. So I completely get that. But that being said, it's not an easy position. And I do kind of feel bad for the guy.
For sure. I mean, especially like the more I've experienced the Barstool world and like what some people have been put through privately, what some people have been put through publicly. Like I credit any person who can exist in a universe, whether it's Kirk's show or outside of Kirk's show, whether it's trivia or any of that stuff, can exist in a universe where criticism is that prevalent. I think just to have the ability to kind of move on at all, I think shows maturity there. So I hope he lands on his feet.
Would you ever go in studio if that was offered?
Yeah, I would. I definitely would. There was, for some reason, and I have no production background at all, and it wasn't anybody from Kirk's show, but I was doing some live streams where people asked during the producer search if I would be open to being a producer on the show. I said no to that, and it was, it wouldn't have happened anyway. But I said no to that because I just don't really have much production background. Yeah, no, I'd be fine sitting in and being third chair or fourth chair technically. With Kirk and shooting the shit. I'd have no issue with it.
Yeah, I was there the day John Rich did his tryout for the producer search. And I took it he wasn't a huge Minifan before then. I don't think he knew too much about the show. But I think he realized it's a lot different being a producer on Kirk's show than most other shows. You're not, you actually have a voice, you're part of the show, you're expected. I think a lot of people think producer, you think you're just pushing buttons, and a lot of the jobs are like that. But for his show specifically, I feel like you're more of like a third mic than anything.
Yeah, and it's kind of it really varies per show too. Like there are some shows, whether it's podcasts or sports radio shows, what have you, where the producer has a legitimate voice and they'll almost be another co-host.
Sure. And
there's some, like I remember like Francesa's old show, like they didn't give the producers a microphone. They wouldn't let them talk.
Right.
So you never really know, but definitely like, I mean, I knew people that thought that Cullinane was the co-host of the show,
right?
Before, because he had such a promising, like prevalent role on there. So yeah, you definitely and you have that balancing act is tough. I know with somebody like John Rich, I think John, and I don't know him that well. I really admire him a lot. I think he's one of the best hires we've had here because he's totally unafraid to throw himself into anything. Yeah. And the fact that he was just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll give this producer thing a try. I thought that made there was a brief moment where I thought maybe he'd been in the running, and I think Kirk really did kind of consider it.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure he would have done a great job. But yeah, no, he's doing a great job in New York at the same time.
Yeah, it sounded like it was just really the logistics of moving and with his girlfriend. I think he had just moved with her or something. So I get that completely. That was part of Montante's thing where he didn't want to take the second producer role and have to relocate. I don't know if the salary didn't work out and stuff like that. So it's tough for everybody to kind of make it work. And ultimately, it's somebody else's show, so it's not your decision, right? So I get that completely. But who's your favorite third chair that goes on there right now? I guess regularly. Blind Mike. We'll take Blind Mike out of it because he's kind of the staple, right?
Just as the thing is, I'm such a simp for people who are just kind to me, and Montante's always kind of been in my corner since I kind of showed up in the universe. Really liked doing his show. That was actually one of a really good interview that I did with him. I was in Omaha. I think it was last June. So I've always liked him. I like the dynamic. I love like whether I agree with it or not, like I love the way that Kirk kind of pushes buttons about the political stuff. I think it's great. And like he's a sharp guy. And he's also a huge sports fan too. Yeah. So I mean, even even if it's not show related, like we'll DM each other sometimes about sports related stuff. So yeah, he probably stands out as somebody. I do have to throw one out there, and hasn't been in as consistently. But a huge reason why I have this job is because of Jared Carrabis. Like really? Me and him, it's so weird, and it's too bad because he left Barstool right after I arrived. So I came in June 2021. I think he was out, I believe, by fall 2021, because I don't think he did anything for the postseason that year. Like I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. But shortly after he was out, me and him had something of a social media relationship. Right. I'd been on one of his live streams. I had been featured on Starting Nine at one point. And from what I gathered from him was that Dave reached out to Jared after seeing my video. He's like, have you seen this guy before? Like, what's his stuff like? And Jared's like, no, he's good. He's funny. I feel bad because I've only met Jared in person once. It was in Boston for the Barstool Awards show. I'll text him every so often. I'd like to have more of a kind of working relationship with him. Maybe he finds his way back here. I don't know. Right. But yeah, every time I see him, I always kind of have a soft spot for the guy because I think we have sort of similar stories with me, the Tigers, him with the Red Sox. A guy who just kind of started out doing this thing that he was passionate for, like in high school, right. And then ultimately what he's become. So I always enjoy seeing him on the network. All
right, just a couple more here. I don't want to keep you too long, but no, you're good. Take audience out of it, and I guess status the company out of it. Who would you want to make content with the most that you aren't already?
Nick and KB.
Okay.
Nick and I are friends. I don't talk to KB as much as I should, but the thing with me, and it's an issue I run into, is that if you can get me in these lanes where I'm comfortable, I'm in such a better headspace, and I'm like pretty darn good at what I do. Like these Tiger videos, the sports videos I do grew in popularity because it's just, hey, like this is easy to me. I can sit in a room for 4 minutes and talk about Tiger game, Lions game, Michigan game, what have you. I've been working here for almost 3 years. There is still, and a lot of this is on me, there is still an intimidation that kind of comes with working here, with being around. And sure. It's not that anyone hasn't been cordial, but the way I've always described it is it's like you watch a TV show your entire life, and then you become a character on that TV show. It's like I remember the first time I stepped in the New York offices, like I had like this kind of anxious chuckle where it's like I'm looking at Big Cat and like, dude, I've seen you on the internet. Like I know who you
my
are.
Whole life. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Those two guys, they've always been incredibly supportive of me. And the stuff I've gone through, they make me laugh my ass off. They're exceptionally talented. I think what they offer to the company as well, that I think is one of the best things. I brought up John Rich. I think is somebody who's like this as well. Just versatility. Like you can talk about sports with them if you want. You can do comedy stuff with them if you want. I think that one of the issues that I've run into sometimes at this company is my content has, because I'm so kind of analytically minded with my sports teams, has a tendency to maybe be a little bit dry. Those guys make me laugh my ass off. I think that like in person, we've had a pretty good chemistry together. I know they're in Chicago. I've texted Nick about maybe collaborating on a few things, but yeah, always enjoyed being around those guys, feel comfortable around them. I've done a lot of stuff with Mincy and will continue to, obviously with the baseball stuff, Carl and I, Clemmer and I, but yeah, I would say the guys, I feel comfortable around those guys. And I think that we'd kind of have a good back and forth.
And I guess last question. Is there one avenue, I guess, of content or that somebody does that you just would not do?
Ooh, good question.
Because this is why I asked that is because, I mean, I've kind of said on the Kirk Minahan show, I will do absolutely anything necessary. I said at one point I would let Dwight Howard penetrate me, which I probably will take back. But that being said, I've said I would do just about anything. So I'm kind of curious on how far people will take it.
That's a good question. The way I've always stood on it is I will say yes to being on any show. It doesn't matter to me if like, regardless of how advanced or unadvanced my knowledge is on a certain topic. Like if they want me to be on the baseball show, I'll do it. If Kelly Keegs wants me to talk about Taylor Swift, I'll come on and I'll try to bullshit my way through it. I really don't care. In terms of things I wouldn't do, I mean, honestly, the only thing would be anything that involves potential bodily harm would be the only thing that I'm saying no to. Like even some of those game shows, like I was watching a Most Dangerous Game Show, was really well put together, but these were people I know and they were like vomiting and crying. Yeah. I'm like, God, this looks rough, man. And again, it was great content and everything, but I would say, anything like in terms of like potential physical damage is probably a non-starter for me. But like my whole thing, like I became what I became as a talker. So to me, like my strength, and I enjoy blogging, is just like, I like just sitting down in rooms and talking to people. I can find my way, kind of wiggle my way through any topic. So yeah, being on any show, I can't imagine there's one I'd say no to. Anything involving some kind of physicality might be a non-starter for me.
That's fair. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you joining me. Very nice of you. It's kind of last minute too, so I appreciate you get it up this week. Good luck with your sports this week. What do you got? Lions on Saturday or Sunday?
I believe it is Sunday. I'll have to double check though.
Okay.
I think it's Sunday. To be decided right now, but it's either going to be the Bucs or the Eagles.
Can I get a prediction? I as you can tell, I'm a Bucs fan. Can I get a prediction on how this all turns out?
Honest, right now, the Eagles are cratering to a point where I can't pick them to win another game. I mean, and especially if AJ Brown like is out, they've had such a drastic downturn. And ultimately, I think the Bucs have been relatively undervalued most of the season.
They've been competitive in every game pretty much. So yeah, they've been good.
Yeah, I've always been a guy who's in Baker Mayfield's corner. Like I've always been a Baker Mayfield defender.
Yeah,
I loved him at Oklahoma. And while the Browns have moved on in the playoffs, it's like, man, that if he doesn't have that shoulder injury, like I feel like he's probably still in Cleveland. Like I feel like he's still at the intangibles to be a top 10, 15 quarterback
for sure
in the league. The defense is solid. So I kind of like them in this game. They're playing at Raymond James as well. So I think we would match up against the Bucs. But
is there a chance
at this point in the year?
Give me odds Lions make it to the Super Bowl.
20%.
Is the chance the company will send you to the Super Bowl if that's the case?
Probably not.
All right. Well, hey, I'm telling you, they should right now. I'll speak for it right now. This is a Lions fan. This is a lifer. Send this man to the Super Bowl if they get there. It's been 30-something years since they won a game. Come on.
I will definitely go regardless of whether I'm sent there or not. But the only reason is I think I'll like our chances next week. The Niners roster to me is one of the most talented of recent memory, and they protect the quarterback. They run the ball. I wouldn't be crazy about that matchup against our defense. I think we have a legit shot next weekend, so that's why I'm putting it at 20% to make it, just because getting over that hump against San Francisco is going to be tough.
Yeah. All right. Well, fair enough, man. I hope it works out for you, and I hope they send you the Super Bowl. I hope your Lions win. I am actually, if the Bucs lose tonight, I'll tell you this: I'll hop on the Lions bandwagon because Jared Goff's a Minute fan is the rumor too, so we gotta like him
for sure. And that's what's cool, man. Yeah, I know. I've heard that. I've had people at Lions games tell that to me.
It's crazy
that he's a Minute fan. But no, that is one really cool thing about this Lions run is there's kind of like the Red Sox in 2004. It's like, man, people just want jumping on the bandwagon. Yeah. Like people want to see the story. It's been so long. They're a team that it's very easy to root for. Good culture there now. So no, I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, dude. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Yep. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.